What's up, everybody out there? Welcome back to part two of my commentary on the girl group they say still can't be replicated. I can't even talk right now. Why can I not say replicate? Replicate. See? You see, there are some things that are going on behind the scenes right now, and I don't mind telling you guys what it is. I knew I should not have recorded that video for an hour long. Right now, the video is still trying to upload. And so, what I am trying to do is frantically hurry up and record part two of this particular segment simply because I don't want to lose my train of thought, okay, on what I was doing. So, welcome back. All right. Welcome back to Pepe's Point of View. I am your favorite music critic, R&B historian. Yes, I'm your favorite host, Pepe, and I want to welcome you guys back over here to Pepe's Point of View. I want to welcome you new viewers, you returning viewers, and you subscribers. Thank you guys so much for joining me as I talk to you guys about this En Vogue saga. That's right. This series is about all that's going on in the En Vogue camp, okay? And as I said, the saga continues. And so in this particular portion, this segment, what I want to talk about is since so many of our divas in Vogue, they're leaving, they're coming back, they're leaving, they're coming back, all kinds of things. And honestly, I would say, I mean, if you left, then you should have created your Diana Ross moment is pretty much where I'm going with this. And so I want to talk to you all about why that did not happen. You know, we're talking about the brand En Vogue. We're talking about the voices, the ladies of En Vogue, and why En Vogue never created their own Diana Ross moment. We're going to get to that. But right now, it would not be right if we did not talk about Foster and McElroy, Tommy and Dennis, Thomas McElroy and Denzil Foster, because these guys created a phenomenon, right? With them opening up the door for girl groups, right? And then opening up the door for other groups to follow. Like they definitely had a blueprint, something very much in mind of you know what it could have been, right? So you have to go to the first video because I'm not going to read what the article that I wrote. I'm not going to do that, but I think what I am going to do then, I am going to post them in the comment section. So if you want to have an idea about what I said in the first video about these guys and how I introduced them, then I'm going to leave that article under the comment section, and you can click that to, you know, see, you know, what I had to say about these guys, so on and so forth. Now, here's what I'm doing. Fingers crossed, I hope it works. What I'm trying to do right now is that I got a video in the queue trying to upload. Then I'm turning around trying to, you know, do this video. So hopefully it works because right now time is of the essence because I want to upload these videos and then, you know, go back to doing, you know, what it is that I need to do. Okay. So the last video, which would be the first video, this here is part two. I ended it by saying, hold on for a second, you guys, because I don't know if you can hear that noise or not. I don't think so. I don't think you can hear that noise. So I ended that video, that particular segment, talking about management. It's no secret out there, and I still have to go and do alleged. It's no secret, you know, Dawn has been in these social media streets for quite some time now, discussing how she felt about how En Vogue was handled. And let's just sum it up in a couple of points. We're not going to, you know, I'm not going to be long-winded with this one. Basically, She auditions for In Vogue. She becomes a member of In Vogue. Uh, they sign a contract. Their first single hits, right? Hold on. Typically, yes, sometimes, if you are, if people are generous and gracious enough, and if you definitely if you have the right management, yeah, you might go like, hey, this here's a hit, let's renegotiate the contracts, right? If that song is a hit. So that didn't happen. Then other hit singles follow, and not only do you have hit singles, you have a hit album. She has a hit album within Vogue, Born to Sing. And so for sure you would think, well, let's renegotiate the contract. It didn't happen, right? Allegedly, and I'm just saying allegedly because I don't know for sure, so I'm going to say allegedly on my part. Allegedly, Tommy and Denny shared the same management that In Vogue had. That right off there is a conflict of interest. I don't even know why any attorney would even allow themselves to be put in that particular situation. That's just me. Seriously, like, even if they said, hey, we would really love for you to be our manager, so on and so forth. No, ladies, that's definitely a conflict of interest, and I'm going to tell you exactly why it is. I could not put myself in a place where I'm representing both of you all, and both of you all have, business. Like their manager would have to, or their attorney rather, is it their attorney or manager? I'm not quite sure. I know it's management for sure. Would have to, be on the best interest of their artists. And so if you're managing, the producers, and then you're managing the artists, you're not in anyone's interest, or your interest is one-sided. So it's definitely a conflict of interest. That's no doubt about that. And then come to find out the contract is a non-negotiable contract. So it is what it is. Okay. And so there you have it, the ins and outs of, the music industry. This is not the first artist who has had that story. Probably won't be the last artist who has that story, but it is what it is. So that's pretty much to sum it up in a nutshell. Okay. Now, these gentlemen, Thomas McElroy and Denzil Foster, have pretty much been tight-lipped, right? We can say that they've been tight-lipped. They have not necessarily talked about or anything that the ladies of In Vogue, any of the ladies of In Vogue, have had to say for the most part. They have not talked about it. People want them to talk about it. Again, I follow the In Vogue craze, and the people over there in the In Vogue craze, definitely would like to hear Tommy and Denny's thoughts about it. Now, here's what I'm going to say. I respect that they are quiet about it. Sometimes everything does not necessarily need your attention, right? But they are too quiet for me. They are so quiet, wherever they are, to the point where they are allowing, to me right now, their legacy, what they have created with, let's just say within Vogue, pretty much now go by the wayside, like literally slip out of the palm of their hands. Well, what do you mean by slip out of the palm of their hands? Like, their names will be mentioned. Thomas McElroy and Denzil Foster, their names will be mentioned, but no one would recognize their face. And so that's the thing that I want them to, pretty much understand right now is that, you created this. I am definitely an In Vogue. I'm a day one. So I'm not about the gossip in all of the drama in Vogue. I am a fan of the brand. I really like the brand In Vogue. As I said before, it could be 4 totally different ladies. And if they come with the concept that Tommy and Denny has had, for, In Vogue, I'll be a fan of these 4 new ladies. It wouldn't bother me at all. So let's just move on from that part. But again, what I hope does not happen, as I say again, is that you will know Thomas McElroy and Denzil Foster by name when it comes to En Vogue, but not by face. And that led me into talking about these guys as far as not having proper management themselves. Because if they had the same management as En Vogue, and let's just say En Vogue, during the hype of their careers when they really supposed to had become, the breakout group. Because think about it. The Funky Divas album sold, let's say, 5 million copies. Their next album should have easily sold between, let's say, 5 to 10 million, 8 to 10 million, right? Their next album, which let's say is 1990, will be 1994, 1995, 1996, so on and so forth. They should have had an album released by that time that really pretty much should have put them into that category where they've sold 10 million albums of one album, just like, TLC, right? And other just single artists like, maybe like a Brandy, a Whitney Houston, a Michael Jackson. So they definitely was well on their way to doing that. All right, I'm off script. So let me pull this thing back in. Whew, take a deep breath. So at the bottom of the last video, I was saying to people that, we don't, when we talk about these producers and these producers who created these groups, no one is like saying, oh my gosh, like, let's just say, oh, R. Kelly did not, no one is saying, oh, well, we're saying now people are trying to disassociate themselves from the R. Kelly and Aaliyah situation. But let's just say you got R. Kelly, the producer of Aaliyah, right? You got Dr. Dre, and I'm just throwing stuff out there. The producer for NWA, the producer for Michelet, Eminem, so on and so forth. You have Teddy Riley, the producer of Guy, the producer of Blackstreet. You know what I'm saying? The producer who brought all of these other, gave all these, producer of Keith Sweat's first album, right? You have, and even though in some of these situations, let's say, for instance, like the Keith Sweat and the Teddy Riley situation, yes, that it appears to be that producer-artist relationship is strained right now. That there's some business things on the end of the Make It Last Forever album that these two are having some differences with, but that comes with the territory sometimes. Just like we're talking about Foster and McElroy. There's some things that are going on that went on with Foster and McElroy as far as J. King and Club Nouveau is concerned, which kind of led them to probably breaking away themselves. But at the end of the day, no one is excluding that Thomas McElroy and Denzil Foster contributed to the Club Nouveau, sound and production and songwriting and those things. Do you see? And so the same things with Janet Jackson and Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. So where I'm going with this, or we could say Michael Bivins and Boyz II Men, right? So usually sometimes when a producer is being introduced, a group is being introduced and they have a producer, pretty much established producer, 9 times out of 10, that producer is not only mentioned a lot, but that producer is also somewhere near around with introducing that artist, right? Well, you never really saw that with Foster and McElroy in Vogue. You saw him in the video, with Dr. Soul. Of course, they, was on the single with Runaway Love. And I would like to think that, well, yeah, they had a little cameo appearance in the Born to Sing album when it's first, side A, when, they're, the party scene. And then I think you hear them on the Funky Divas album with It Ain't Over Till the Fat Lady Sings. So you do hear them, but for the most part, you don't see them. So you're not on the bandwagon. Tommy and Denny, they're not riding that En Vogue wave to the point where they're riding their coattails. And I don't mean to say it like coattails as far as they're somewhere around them, but you didn't see them with En Vogue like that. You didn't see them on the television shows. As a matter of fact, you didn't see them performing in their band. You didn't see them in the band being the performers, which means that 9 times out of 10, they probably did not go on the road with En Vogue. I'm pretty sure, I can't recall. That's just me saying, just on the top of my head. And I'm pretty sure they definitely attended shows, that's for sure. But I'm talking about like literally hit the road with En Vogue. You don't see that. And for me, because I just am a fan like that, when I looked up one day and I'm in the record store, and this is, true story. I'm in the record store and I'm just looking around. And back in the day, you had these VHS tapes of artists. They would record, some of their live performances, and then they'll put them on VHS tapes. So there was a section in the record store where you can go over to see what artists had released, a live recording, that you can purchase and, and watch them, behind the scenes. And I recall En Vogue having that for their Born to Sing album. And I was like, whoa, I was like, okay, En Vogue got something going on behind the scene. And wow, I was like, man, they got a VHS out. And I go in, pull it, watch it, and there you have Tommy and Denny there talking about En Vogue. So you see them there, but that's it. And then the same thing happens with the Funky Divas album. They do another VHS tape, and Tommy and Denny, definitely present there. You see a little bit more behind the scenes, but that's it. That's it. But for a while, you do see them there with you see these producers with their flagship artists like that. Now, like I said, and I'm thinking about this. I'm saying this at the top of my head, and then all of this is coming to me. But one person can argue, well, we don't see Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis after the Control album. Well, that's fine, because the Control album did so well for Janet Jackson. It definitely put Jam and Lewis on the map. So, that was already done. But again, I'm talking about strategy, though. I'm talking about that strategy part that I just don't think that Tommy and Denny took the advantage of it to the point where, they could let everybody know who they are, which brings up exposure. I don't think that Tommy and Denny got the exposure that they, needed as a production duo. Now, that brings me back to the thing that I was saying in the last video when it came to them working on the Alexander O'Neal album. I recall it could have been 1991, but I'm going to say it's 1990. And I recall it's in Ebony magazine. If anybody can find this article, I'll try to look for it. But if anybody can find this article, because my grandmother got copies of Essence magazine, Ebony magazine, and Jet magazine. They were always, at our home. We always got the latest copy. My grandmother had, subscribed to those magazines. And then not only that, you're in school, you go to the library, those magazines are in the library, so you can look at them, as well, for that, regular monthly or weekly subscription to a weekly publication to come out. And I remember in the in Ebony magazine, there was a article about producers, and I can't remember all of the producers who they profiled, but I do believe it was Narada Michael Walden was one of the producers. I do remember seeing Tommy and Denny's picture profile. I want to say Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis was pictured with them. Angela Winbush was in that article. Was there another picture? Those are the pictures I remember. There was some other artists mentioned as well in that article. And as I said before, Tommy Denny is having so much success with In Vogue that I definitely thought that Too Tough Enough Productions would become a record company. But then they did branch out to produce other acts. Now, this is what I want to talk to people, bring up, because, it's not really fair to talk about it this way, but, hey, it is what it is. We're doing it Peppy style. Some people could say, Tommy Denny, those artists didn't hit. I remember To Be Continued, right? I remember that group being out. As a matter of fact, I think Debbie T was a part of that group. Debbie T is the rapper on Lies. I remember her. I think she was a member of that group. I think Wayne Jackson in that group, or Wayne Jackson was in one of those groups. If it wasn't To Be Continued, it was I think I'm going to pronounce it correctly. Nation Funktation. I know they had a song I called Anti-Funky World, which I really thought was really hip and cool. He could have been in that group, but Wayne Jackson is the guy who's rapping on Hip Hop Lover on the Funky Divas album, right? Don't hold me to that. And then I think he is responsible for the rap part of It Ain't Over till the Fat Lady Sings on the Funky Divas album. But who is the guy on the Soulflower album singing with Terry? What is the song called? My Hips, I always get that. That's my favorite song on the album, but I forget the name of the song. Your hips, your lips, your thighs. What she say? Is it my hips, my eyes, my thighs? I'm gonna think of the name of that song in a minute. But anywho, yeah. I don't know if that guy was in one of the groups or not, but again, we're talking about them riding the wave, and yet somehow or another they didn't. They wasn't as prominent as I thought they should be, and I'm still speculating. Is that the problem? Is the problem with Tommy Denny is that they had bad management? How is it that you're going to go down in history as pretty much reinventing In Vogue, and yet your face, who you are, is not there? I'm sorry, I'm looking for the Soulflower critics. Let me see if I can find them. Soulflower, because I'm looking for that song. I hate not knowing the name of that song. All You See. I think All You See. All You See. The song, is that who's the singer? Michael Marshall? He's the writer. That name sounds familiar. Michael Marshall. That's the guy that was in what's the name of that group? Timex Social Club, isn't it? Don't make me lie. I'm looking for the credits, you guys. Michael Marshall. And it doesn't say, and I'm not gonna keep looking. But anyway, it's cool. It's what it is. We're gonna move right along from that. And it's still acting like it don't want to pull up. So they didn't ride the wave. So it's safe to say that, again, Tommy Denny suffered from bad management as well. When it came to putting them at the level that they should be when it comes to, being, among. Oh, Lord. Hold on, child. Hold on. Oh, Lord. I got too much going on. I'm trying to pull up the article. That's all, so I can have my pointers. Again, that's the part that I'm telling you guys I've learned to pretty much just go with the flow. Um, you know, it is what it is. So we're talking about them as producers, okay? And I've talked to you guys also about In Vogue as far as what they were able to create. And again, people are going to have, and I need people to understand this, you're going to have your favorite girl group. You're going to. There's no need for us to go back and forth and talk about why one group is better than the other, who can outsing who, and things like that, right? I'm here to say, and I hopefully will be able to articulate it in a way in which most people would get it. I don't know, maybe Tommy and Denny, if they hear this and come across it, could easily say, he's probably kind of right. He's right on track. There might be some of the things that he's kind of missing, but for the most part, he is right on track. There's not another girl group out there that is in Vogue's lane and who has really and truly taken what they have done and accomplished and brought it, enhanced it. There isn't any. People want to choose other girl groups because they're saying, well, what about Destiny's Child? But that's not in Vogue. It's not in Vogue. Well, Kelly sings lead and Michelle sings lead but okay, well, it ain't four of them anymore. and when Destiny's Child becomes the Destiny Child that we know today, they went to, like I said, Frank Gaston Jr., right? Gaston Jr. He's the one who hooked them up, for the most part. But I don't think that Destiny's Child is in Vogue lane. I have to stop and really look and consider it. There's a lot of things that you see, with Destiny's Child that I could probably kind of give them the credit for, but that's another reason why I still say, if we say it is Destiny's Child, then my point I'm making is still true then. If Destiny's Child took, let's say, I'm not going to say took the crown, but enhanced what In Vogue did, then, and if Destiny's Child is in Vogue's lane, then you still got to give In Vogue their credit. This is not about one group being greater than the other one, right? Because you have Sister, now I'm about to say Sister Sledge, but you have not the Pointer Sisters. You have the Supremes. And then you can say, okay, we got the Supremes, okay, and then we have Sister Sledge. And then after Sister Sledge, you can probably say, okay, we got the Pointer Sisters. And after the Pointer Sisters, you say, okay, we got In Vogue. And after In Vogue, you can say we have Destiny's Child. If I'm say that, I can give you that. But I don't think Escape is in Vogue's lane. I don't. I think that the demographic, the Escape sound, totally different. Totally different. I think that they have a different demographic than In Vogue, and In Vogue has a different demographic than Escape. Again, TLC, different. SWV, different. But again, I don't think that they followed the same model for the most part. And I'm just going to have to be quite honest with you. I'm not, and I'm saying respectfully, while we do like Destiny's Child, and when I started like Destiny's Child is when they released Independent Women. When I saw them do that, I was like, okay, I got to give these ladies their props. Let me stop. So that's when I started liking them. But had Beyonce not become the public figure she had become, Destiny's Child would have still been I just don't see it. Maybe I'm gonna have to come back to it. I just don't see it. But the more I talk about it, the more I see it, though. I'm gonna have to give it to you. Like I ain't gonna lie to myself. The more I see it, the more I talk about it, the more I probably can say it's Destiny's Child. But that's all right. Because that's all right. But then my theory, right, on this would still be the same, though, wouldn't it? And what do you mean? Well, we could say that you got Destiny's Child, who then what they did was they took the Diana Ross model for Beyonce and they used it. And she became the Diana Ross of the group, which means that it goes back to, you know, what I was saying about my overall theme, which is En Vogue did not have their Diana Ross moment. None of the divas had their Diana Ross moment. We're talking about two different things here. So just hold on. Let's stay with Tommy and Denny. But again, I don't think it's been replicated. But if someone says to me right now, well, you probably, you know, onto something, but go ahead on and bow out gracefully and say, well, it is. It is Destiny's Child. But I have to, here's what I would have to do. Because I didn't care too much for Destiny's Child when it first came out. I didn't. I just don't think that they were singing. And then I disliked that, I don't know what you want to call it, but that fast singing, like, or that fast talk. I think once they found their groove of what kind of record and what kind of singing style we liked coming from Destiny's Child. Once they found out what that was and they really used it and marketed it, you know, it became the marketing genius that it had become, then my hat's off to them. But, interesting. Well, hey, it's what it is. I'm gonna stick to it, but not because I'm trying to be, you know, difficult. It's because I'm an En Voguer. All right, so we 30 minutes in to this video, ladies and gentlemen, and to be quite honest with you, the other one is still trying to upload. I just don't. Oh Lord. And I don't want to. Do I want to end it? Yes, because I can definitely still talk about Tommy and Denny and all the other things that I have going on, because it's worthy to be talked about, right? And so there it is. We're going to end it on that. So if you made it this far in my commentary, I think it's only appropriate for me to ask you to hit the like button, the subscribe button, the share button. I appreciate all of you all for your support. Yes, like I said, you know, help grow the channel. You know what? It is what it is. If you like what it is that I'm doing, you know, and especially if you want to hear more about these artists that I'm talking about, because they need us to talk about them. They do. Because we are not talking about them, who, you know, we need to let people know who they are. You understand what I'm saying? And I want to say thank you guys for checking me out. And whenever I leave my mother's presence, she always says to me, she says, baby, remember, I love you, but God loves you best. I look forward to seeing you next video. And until then, you should know what to do by now. Take care of you. And I'll see you next video.